Hi computer scientists, Mr. Stafford here, and I'm going to be working on lesson 4, adding multiple constructors. So looking at the instructions on the left hand side, it says import dessert.java from your backpack. So I flow to the backpack, and dessert.java, I tick that radio button and hit import, and it says the Project Mercury Pastries bestseller is their 6-count red velvet flavored cupcakes for $6.50. It wants us to add a no argument constructor to dessert.java using the information for the default values, using this information for the default values. So I'm looking at dessert.java right now, and it has 3 instance variables: flavor, quantity, and price. And it also had me write the constructor taking parameters: new flavor for flavor, new quantity for quantity, new price for price. This was in a previous lesson. So what it wants me to do now is add that no argument constructor. Okay, so since it's a constructor, it's going to be overloaded, and it's going to be public and have the same name as the class, which is dessert. So public dessert, no arguments, so just open and close parentheses, and then open up your curly braces. Okay. So using the information, it says that the Project Mercury Pastries bestseller is their 6-count red velvet flavored cupcakes. So I'm going to go in the same order as my constructor with parameters. So I'm going to state the flavor. Okay. So our flavor is going to be equal to, and it's a string, and it's going to be red velvet. The next is the quantity, so it's 6 count, so quantity equals 6. And the price is going to be $6.50, so price equals $6.50. And this is called hard coding, when you actually enter in the literals of the data that you want. So I have red velvet as a string, 6 as an int, and $6.50 as a double. So the second thing it wants me to do is, using the no argument constructor, create a dessert object called red velvet in myfoodtruck.java. So what I need to do now, I'm going to run this just to make sure I don't have any errors. It says that the program is complete. I'm going to flow over to my food truck, and it says that I have one error. It says my food truck Java 5 error, incompatible types, possible lossy conversion from double to an int. So it's looking at dessert cake equals new dessert, chocolate 5 and $1.99. So some messages have been simplified. So I need to look at, I have this constructor call with chocolate 5 and $1.99. So let's look back at dessert. And the error that I'm seeing is on line 11. Okay, the error that I'm seeing is actually on line 11, so this is kind of sneaky. On line 5, it says double price. But in the parameters, it says int new price. So what I'm trying to do is set a double price on line 14 equal to this int. So I'm going to change this to a double, run it, and see if I get the same error. And I don't. I'm going to clear the console just to make sure. And it seems to be happy with that. So flavor is chocolate, quantity is 5, and price is $1.99. What had happened was the double of new price, when I had, it was an int, but I was trying to give it 1.99, which is a double. So that's why it was upset with me. So now that I have that figured out, I'm going to create another dessert object with that no parameter constructor that I created. So I've got dessert, let's call it red velvet, is going to be equal to a new dessert. Okay, I'm going to run that. Now we see that I'm just getting that chocolate flavor right here. And the reason is I have not printed the info for my red velvet. Okay, so I'm going to call that method that's at the bottom of the dessert class. So I'm going to say red velvet dot print info. Run that. And I see now that I'm getting on the second line here all the default values for that no constructor parameter. I'm getting red velvet, the quantity is 6, and the price is 6.5. Okay, so when you click finish that, I'm going to fast forward to the second programming lesson, and it says the owner of the project Mercury Pastries wants you to expand the current dessert class. In dessert.java, so I'll flow over there, in dessert.java, write an overloaded constructor that takes parameters new flavor for flavor and new price for price, but it sets quantity to 12 by default. So this is another overloaded constructor. I've got a constructor with 3 parameters, new flavor, new quantity, new price. I've got a constructor with no parameters, and then we're going to have a constructor with 2 parameters. Still needs to be public, name dessert, same name as the class. The flavor is still going to be a string, so I'm going to say string, new flavor, and then it wants me to set a price and a new price for price. So again, price is double, and I'm going to say new price. And we're only using 2 constructors, okay? So I'm going to set my flavor equal to new flavor. So the instance variable flavor is being set equal to my parameter of new flavor. Now the quantity is going to be default to 12. So the quantity is going to equal 12. And the price is going to be set equal to the parameter of new price equals new price. Okay. Run this, make sure that everything is okay. And I have an error here. It says public dessert string new flavor. I've misspelled string. I forgot my R. Maybe you caught that. Run it again just to make sure. And the program completed. These were the 2 objects that I made previously for the chocolate and the red velvet. And so instruction number 2, it says, in my food truck, create a new dessert object called custom dozen. So I'm going to flow back to my food truck. I'm going to say dessert custom dozen is going to be equal to new dessert. And again, I just have a flavor and price that is going to be custom. So the flavor that I'm going to put in here is going to be a string. I'll say vanilla. And the price for vanilla is going to be, let's say, $10.50. Okay. Again, if I run this, nothing should be printed out for this custom dozen because I haven't called the print info yet, and we see that here. We just have the chocolate and the red velvet. So what I want to do is call the print info method on the custom dozen dessert object. So I'm going to say custom dozen dot print info. Run that. And I have that print info there. So I have vanilla. The quantity is 12. Remember, that was hard-coded in our 2 parameter constructor in the dessert class. Okay, we'll click finish, go on to the last programming level. And it says, the owner of the Project Mercury Pastries food truck has decided to offer cupcakes for $1.50. She wants customers to enter values for flavor and quantity. So in the dessert class, flow back over to the dessert class, write a constructor taking parameter new flavor for flavor and new quantity for quantity. So this is also going to be a 2 parameter constructor. However, we're just taking in a flavor and a quantity. So the flavor is going to be a string and the quantity is going to be an int. So the constructors have different parameters, different parameter types, which is why I'm able to create another 2-parameter constructor, because I already have a 2-parameter constructor. Let's create it. So public dessert. It's going to be a string. Don't forget my R this time. String, new flavor. And new quantity for quantity. So quantity is going to be an int, and they spell it new QTY. Okay. Now again, if I'm going along with the pattern that I have been, I'm going to set flavor equal to new flavor, our quantity equal to new QTY for quantity. But back in the instructions, it says that the food truck wants to offer cupcakes for $1.50. So again, we're going to hard code that price for 1.5. If you want to put 1.50, you can. It doesn't matter. 1.5 or 1.50. Okay. Run this just to make sure that I'm not getting any errors. And I'm not. These are the 3 objects that I've already created. Okay. Instruction number 2 says in myfoodtruck.java, create a scanner object called input. So flow back to the food truck. So I'm going to make scanner input equals new scanner system.in. Okay. And it says use the scanner object to get user input for flavor and for quantity. So I'm going to make a system.out.print. And I'm going to ask them to enter a flavor. And next, what I need to do is grab that flavor. So I need to make a variable. It's a string. I'm going to call it flav. Is going to equal input.next. And then I need to ask them for the quantity. So I'm going to say system.out.print, enter quantity, and I need to hang on to that as a variable. So quantity is going to be an int. I'm going to name it quant equals input dot next int with a capital I. Okay, and I'm going to test this out before I go any further. Okay, it's still printing out the 3 objects that I had before. And now it's asking me to enter a flavor. So I'm going to say strawberry. And the quantity, let's go 7. Okay, and the program is complete. So what we need to do now is create a dessert object called cupcake using the values that the customer entered. So those values that I just entered, I'm going to build an object with it using that 2-parameter constructor that I made in the dessert class. So it's going to be dessert. I'm going to name it cupcake. It's going to equal a new dessert. And it's going to take in the 2 parameters, the flavor and the quantity. So I'm going to say flav, because that's what I named it, and quant. Again, I want to view the information, so I'm going to say cupcake dot print info. Okay, and I should be able to see the info that I'm printing. So enter flavor, I'm going to say strawberry. The quantity, I'm going to say 7. And the last one that it prints out is flavor equals strawberry, quantity equals 7, and the price is that $1.50 that I wanted for these cupcakes.